back for our pod class on healing, how to heal, and specifically, we want to focus on how to heal using energy tools, the intuitive work that we do. There's obviously so many different ways that you can heal, and we want to share a bit of our expertise. And for the people who are here live with us on Zoom, some of them are just sharing something that they would want to work on healing in themselves. Oh, wow, something physical. Someone said broken bone, sensitivity to fragrance. Interesting. Haven't heard that one before. Relationship with sister, connections, past mistakes, to be at peace with everyday unexpected events, nervous system. Yeah, keep them
You've
coming.
never heard of sensitivity to fragrances before?
Um, I guess not as a topic to heal. Yeah,
Topic for you.
loss.
Yeah. I ha
Yeah.
I wear contacts and I have that issue with certain fragrances will
Hmm.
oh
I get you.
yeah. Yeah.
So,
Yes, the how to heal is such a broad topic. There are so many different avenues to healing. And I think from the energy working standpoint, one aspect is getting into the energy of healing and creating space for healing. And there's much we can do with the energy healing, and then also there may be next steps that send us off into different avenues of and methodologies of healing. But what we can speak to and what we practice is really the energy healing, the idea of you kind of heal the spirit and the spirit heals the body was always the phrase we used to use way back in the day when I was a healing teacher. Um, but the topic of healing is such a broad topic, and it is certainly something that we have as a central focus in the energy work. We certainly teach learning how to see, learning how to work with energy, but the end result of much of that is healing, as a what's happening along the path. And even the advanced levels, like the transmedium program that I teach, it could rightfully be called the transmedium healing program because that is the central focus of that program.
yeah, and
Yeah.
when we do intuitive training programs, a lot of the work in learning how to read energy in the beginning stages tends to be healing because whenever we have someone close their eyes and we ask them, all right, I want you to take a look at something. Take a look at this energy. Can you see a mental image picture? Can you see energy? They'll often say, I can't see. I close my eyes and I want to see energy. This sounds really cool, but I just can't see. And that lack of clarity often is pain of some form, some unconsciousness, some energy that might be stuck covering that mind's eye that needs attention to be and to maybe to be healed, to be released. So a lot of the early stages of learning how to read energy is actually different forms of healing. And one of them is learning to release other people's energy and pain. And I'm willing to bet that the majority of pain that most of us hold is belongs to other people. And we get confused and stuck when we're on the healing path because we don't realize that we're trying to heal or fix something that isn't ours. So if we're holding on to mom's pain or dad's pain or a partner or an ex, whoever it is, and it's almost like trying to eat for someone else. We can't digest that energy fully and then it doesn't leave. And so a lot of the early stages of doing this kind of energy work is recognizing when we're holding on to somebody else's pain and then starting to release it. I always see that on the kind of arc of energy healing as one of the main and early stages of becoming aware
Yeah.
of energy.
Yeah. And I think one of the early things we have to recognize, and it takes some doing, is that we can't heal somebody else's pain as we start to recognize that energy come up in us and we want to heal it, and maybe we are healers by nature, and it is a kind of a step in growth for a healer, to realize that they can't heal someone else's problem or pain in themselves. So we just have to find a place to release it. We can still be compassionate and caring and healing toward the person, but we can't heal it in ourselves, in our own energy space.
Yeah, whenever I work one on one with someone and we're doing some kind of healing work, it's very common that some of the first like outer layers of energy that I see in them will be the pain that they're holding on to from the world, sometimes from childhood. And then that creates confusion and it covers the third eye. So that always begs the question, well, how do I become aware of that? How can I tell the difference between my pain and somebody else's pain or the world's pain? And when we start to close our eyes and meditate, that's when we can start to become aware of energy. So it might just be noise in the head. It might be feelings that don't make any sense. From a kind of visual perspective, when you're looking at energy, there might be colors that almost look like foreign to you. You can almost just tell that, oh, this is the more you meditate with energy, the more you start to realize this belongs to me. It feels good. Even your own pain could feel okay because it's leading to your growth. But you can start to sense the texture of an energy. Go, okay, I'm starting to sense that pain belongs to this person in my life, or to a female energy, or a male energy, or to an older energy, or to just the noise of the world. You start to just recognize the difference between the qualities and the types of energy the more you sit and meditate. And one of the ways we start that off often in our when we do intuitive training or other programs is we'll learn to get into the center of our heads and see what's in there and clear that space out. We might see a bunch of other people, their expectation, their energies, or their what they want for us in life, and we start to clear that out of our heads, and then we can clear that out of our energy fields around our body. We can start to release it out of our emotional bodies. And then as we release all of that foreign energy, it gets easier to see and to heal our own pain. And that, I think, is when things start to get really interesting.
Yeah. Yeah, I think one of the first steps is that step of moving into a place of energy awareness and starting to see things as energy, where we can take them out of the charged place of blame or victim or perpetrator or it got done to me. It's not that those stories don't have some level of validity. It's very difficult to release from that perspective though. And when we come into an energy awareness perspective, we can get a broader sense of awareness of what's happening and find this place of neutrality or forgiveness, and that makes it much easier to then release what isn't ours really to carry or solve. But
It,
that's a journey. That's kind of the journey of learning to see energy is all about coming into that place of awareness of energy, and the journey of meditating is also from the form of meditation we teach, all about finding that place within us to perceive things as energy and then perceive the imbalances or the blocks and then tools to release that. And healing is really that release, whether it's of a block or a picture that we carry where we're carrying that pain, or maybe we're taking the blame. I was just reading someone yesterday who was he was like a great problem solver. He was really energetic and enthusiastic about kind of seeing things that need to be fixed. He's kind of a healer, and he would step in and problem solve. But there was this energy in his space and this set of pictures, and it came from his family where they at some level had this picture that he was a problem. And so in all the problem, he had so many great funny stories because in every problem he tried to solve, he did have a clear answer. And when he would articulate it to me, it's like, oh, this is a great just real simple, clear answer. But somehow by the end of that process, he simply became the problem. And so everywhere he went, he would see a problem, he would offer a solution, and then by the end of the process, he everybody thought he was the problem. And so releasing that energy out of him and getting him reconnected with not only that ability, but with his ability to kind of be in a little different energy, perhaps as he approached things, was very transformational. Just in this 1 hour, his energy shifted so much that by the end, he was much more enthusiastic about this ability because he was feeling very beat down by this dynamic that kept happening. But it was really an energy dynamic, and he would end up carrying all of the energy around whatever that problem was that he was trying to solve. So everybody kind of made him the lightning rod to carry the energy, and we shifted that dynamic. So
And
that was pretty fun.
it sounds like some of what he was releasing was in a form of invalidation. And
Yes,
so
he ended up with invalidated in every one of those situations. Yeah,
so we can release an energy like invalidation. It could actually melt off the body or out of the energy field, out of our heads. But we can also release the memories and the pictures that formed that energy in the first place. Maybe he received a picture, like you were saying, from his family that he was the problem. It's almost like
right.
a sticky note that gets stuck to you. And then maybe you start to believe it. And then you start to see the world through that picture. And then other people may see you through that picture. So it sounds like he got so
That was
much of that.
exactly what was happening, was that it became
Yeah.
a filter that everything went through, and so then everything would turn on him, even though he came in with a very positive image of what that he could help, you know, and it turned on him. Yeah,
Yeah, it's an unfortunate sequence of events that often happens that way because it's the invalidation creates the picture, and then everyone validates that invalidation, and then you also start to believe it, and then it almost builds a reality of its own. And
right, exactly.
a lot of people who want to heal, they really start to believe that their pain defines them because of these kinds of pictures, and it's something that's hard to break through and release if you don't have some help and have somebody see you past your pictures. So one of the things that we do when we read energy, when we look at, for example, if I'm doing a session with somebody and I close my eyes, my job as a good reader is not to look at their pictures as much as look at that soul in that body, that true essence of who they are, and validate that. For most human beings, they never get validated for their true being beyond their pictures. Everyone's just, maybe there's a picture you're wealthy, or a picture you're successful, or a picture you're not wealthy, or a picture you're not successful, or a picture, that you're a terrible person. And they're all just judgment and pictures sitting on the aura all around like sticky notes, and then that becomes what we might call the ego, kind of this constructed self that we believe and that we show the world, and then the world believes about us, and has very little to do with the real essence of the person. And I was just teaching a retreat in Portugal last week, and this was a big topic of how do we express our personal power. And part of it for me when I was teaching it was showing everyone that it's you get beyond those pictures and you express your energy not just through pictures, but your real energy of who you are as a being that gets expressed, and people could see that and sense that. Most people, they function almost entirely through their pictures and their pain. And then they go, why aren't my creations manifesting either at all, or when they do, they're kind of coming out warped? And it's because they're creating through those pictures, they're creating through those invalidations and those energies, and not through their real natural being. And then they get all tangled up, and then they're like, oh my god, I think I need to heal. Everything I'm creating is turning to shit.
Yeah, and the thing with this guy, this dynamic created a space where then he never felt really seen, and he always felt misunderstood because not that he didn't have a clear picture about like, oh, well, here's a next step we could take, or here's a solution, but because that it went through that filter and that energy, and everything got turned around and mixed up and confused, and so he was left feeling not seen, not heard, not understood, and then he would go into frustration. So then he would get angry, and then that, of course, didn't help the situation. That was when it came full circle, and he proved that he was the problem.
Uh, yeah, it's like, you think I am this? I'll show you that I
Show
am
you,
this.
yeah,
You think I'm angry? I'll show you angry. Yeah. Unfortunately, that
yeah,
does happen to a lot of people who don't heal. As we all know, people who don't heal hurt, right? As we
hmm
all know, the people who don't heal end up hurting all the people around them. And so it's not healing ourselves is also about healing the world. Those things go hand in hand. And so just as you're listening to me and Cody, and for those of you live, I asked you if you wanted to share something you wanted to heal in the chat. If you came in late, you can still do that. But just listening to this topic, you might be going, all right, well, I do notice I have some energy that's not moving. Like it's not shifting. It's there perpetually. Someone on the retreat asked me, what do I do with intrusive? I have this intrusive thought that comes around again and again. So something that's just not moving, it's not shifting. You know, I want it, you want to heal it, you want to let it go or integrate, and it's just not moving. And so then energetically, what do we do at that point? First we notice the energy. So even right now with us, you can notice there might be an energy that doesn't want to move. It's stubborn, it's confused, it's angry, it's despondent, it's apathetic, it's just in plain old pain and suffering. And so you might even just kind of touch it and go, all right, it's I could sense it, I could feel it. It's got a heaviness, a denseness. So the first step is always seeing and acknowledging the energy. Most people just feel and then they get super lost in feeling, right? It's like they feel it and then they become it. It's very easy for sensitive people
yeah,
to feel and become. It's
yeah. Or feel, if we're just feeling, it's very easy also to then avoid, right? Then a distraction. It's much more difficult to avoid when you're starting to see because you suddenly realize I can't see like I was seeing this and now I can't look at it. But
mm,
in a feeling sense, since most of the feelings that are around something we want to heal are unpleasant, it's very natural to avoid that and go into a distraction or go into something that really mutes what we're starting to feel. So so seeing is the path where we can go deeper and really come to true healing, resolution of something.
I think
Yeah.
that's why a lot of folks their emotions and their eating habits are so intertwined, right? Like we feel down in the gut, and a way to distract or make ourselves feel better is to get some of those salts or sugars or I personally have an issue with croissants and anything sweet.
Pasta
uh,
now.
Oh, yeah. Well, I love Italian food, but yes, the sweets are, they get me. They get me. So I'll walk by a cafe in Barcelona and I'll just salivate looking at all the pastries. All right, I'm getting off topic. So, but a lot of times when we just feel and then we want to override or avoid, we might eat or satiate some way or distract some way. And so when we start to see energy, that's when something can shift. So you might, all right, I can even if it's a vague way, I can see there's some pain in me. It's not moving and it wants to heal. So then for me, the next step would be, does that pain belong to someone else? So it just needs to be released? Or is it something that belongs to you that needs to be really fully understood and healed and integrated? That's where I would always go next. And then of course we get back to, well, I can't tell. I can't really quite tell. And that's okay. Most of the time it's hard to tell at first, but you might get a sense of like the texture of it. Does it feel foreign? Is it external judgment? Is it external invalidation? Is it somebody else's pain you've been trying to fix? You can ask the pain the question, where do you come from? What are you made of? And sit with that. And Cody's going to do a meditation with you in a bit, where he'll walk you through some healing. But you can ask that question and sit still and then just see what arises and see what starts to. You might even get, sometimes we get a flash of a person's face, like, oh, wow, it's that person. Or we might get a memory. Oh, it's that personal pain I have from childhood. The memory is arising. We can ask the pain the question, where are you coming from, or what are you? And then we start to get some insight and understanding. Now we're starting to move a little bit.
Yes, we get an answer.
Yeah. Or at least a
And that,
vague, like, okay, I it seems like it's external.
yeah, but I would call that an answer. Like,
Yeah.
I know nothing, and then I start to explore and I start to get a little insight, a little answer about where it's coming from or how it's affecting me. And we just continue kind of down that path of looking and illuminating whatever it is, and we'll get more and more answers. And each step is a point where we shift something or we release something. So a lot of times in healing, I think there's this picture that we can sometimes have that, oh, I want to heal this, which means it's all resolved and gone right away, versus stepping into a space of healing and walking through that journey and down that path. And it will happen in little incremental steps sometimes that I get an answer and shift something. And then I kind of, take that step and then I get a little bit more. So sometimes I think if we have this picture of getting the one big answer or healing it all at once, that becomes its own block.
Absolutely. Whenever someone comes to me and they're like, I had this thing, I busted through it, it was massive, I healed. I'm like, all right, yes, and slow down because that could be a lot at once. You might not be integrating. There might be more layers. There's a kind of a rush or an excitement when we get through a layer, and we want to be, humble and cautious that there might be more. There's stuff that I've worked on over 1,000 times.
Right.
One little bit at a time, sometimes bigger bits, sometimes smaller ones. And this is probably just our physiology and psychology, but your unconscious won't give you everything at once because you can't handle it. And so it's protecting you. And so it might be only giving you the next piece or the next energy that you can handle. And I think when people take, ayahuasca or other substances, they're like, I'm going to get, I haven't done any healing in my whole life. I'm going to get through it all in a weekend. You want to be you want to be cautious because you could blow yourself out and then you can't reintegrate and get back into your body. And so when we're like, okay, there's an energy, I'm sensing it, Dave and Cody are talking about it, it's stuck, maybe some of it's external. The next step is not, I'm going to get antagonistic, I'm going to get you, I'm not going to stop until you're gone. A lot of times energy workers will be like, I need to clear this away, I need to get it away, I need to push it away. And we want to be cautious and see if that's a form of resistance. Energy never heals or releases from resistance. Any amount of resistance, it will never release or heal. So we have to shift. It feels very awkward, sometimes, and counterintuitive to go, I don't like this. And then instead, we have to kind of surrender into some acceptance and presence with it, and see what it needs and be with it rather than fight it. So, very natural response is to go into some antagonistic, I'm going to get you out, I'm going to clear you, pull out the biggest crystal I have and just beam you like and goes. That would be
Yeah,
fun
and
if we could just do
one
that.
of the key things you said a few times is that the integration part. So we could maybe energetically move out and heal, like as a healer, a big chunk of energy that a person isn't yet ready to then integrate that step. And so then, of course, it just comes back. It's that there's the releasing part, and then there's the step where we integrate. And so when we're working on self-healing, we will tend to, self-pace in a way. We'll tend to reveal and work on what we're ready to then step into and integrate. And but it's a process. It's not a one and done thing in most cases of trying to heal something.
Yeah, anyone who
The only time
promises
it's one
that,
and done maybe is if it's not yours, because then you can, if you see that, you can let it go because it's like, well, that isn't even mine.
that's
Yeah.
true. That's a great point. So you might release somebody else's energy, but then you might work on a layer of why you took it on in the first place. And so there's the releasing of, okay, I'm used to healing a certain family member or a certain type of person that comes into my life. Now I've released their energy. Now I have to look at why was I taking that type of energy on in the first place? Are there some images, pictures behind that? And then so we might go a layer deeper, and that's when it becomes the self healing. So if you have to release foreign energy, somebody else's pain, that means there's something in you that it's stuck to. And then that's the next layer, perhaps, to start to look at. And and then and by the way, if you've taken ayahuasca and it was great for you, okay, I'm not knocking it. I'm just saying you can be cautious about how much you can take at once and how much you can integrate into the psyche. And I have seen people who've gone on big healing journeys and then they're just super intense and that now their healing journey defines them and they're just tripping but in a whole different way. So on every step of the healing journey, we want to become more ourselves, feel more naturally, uh, feel that natural true self inside of us, not create a new ego around healing or create a new ego that I'm healed or an identity that I'm not that person anymore. I've seen that happen a lot as well. So one of the maybe north stars of the healing journey should always be, do I feel more and more like myself, more and more integrated? And that's not always sexy. In fact, sometimes it's super boring and simple. I had a teacher that always would always be like, people want to hang out with me. They would be so disappointed. I'm so boring.
Yeah.
Uh,
Yeah. It's very real, it's just
yeah,
very just human that as we kind of get more and more healed, we do just become more ourselves. And that is maybe one way we could talk about the journey even of um, a reader, becoming or an intuitive, that as you get answers and release these energies, you become more of who you are, of just yourself, whatever that is. You don't become something different. You become
yeah,
just more connected with who you are.
yeah, absolutely. So the next part of the healing journey, maybe as we go into the mechanics a bit more of releasing, we can't do it all in one talk, obviously, but just a little bit of some insight into if you do an intuitive training program, maybe some of you have already done it. We teach a whole bunch of tools: grounding ourselves, running energy, having boundaries, calling our energy back from places we've left it, releasing mental images like we've been discussing, maybe healing our own energy fields. there's it's a little bit like playing the piano. Like at first when we do this kind of work, if like clearing out the center of our heads, working with the chakras, right? At first it's like, oh my God, I got to ground and do this and do this. This is way too complicated, and people can feel overwhelmed at first with all the tools. But then after a while, it is a bit like playing the piano, where you use a tool and then it's doing its work, and then another, it's doing its work, and they start to integrate. And then you have all of these different tools that you can implement when you hit an energy or when you get stuck. So you could like, wow, I'm really stuck on some pain. I can look at it, I can ground it, I can release it, I can call my energy back from it. I can, uh, if I need to, shift some energies around that we teach in some more advanced spaces. There's so many ways we can start to approach an energy when it's not moving, or where when we have a hard time seeing it or releasing. And so there are really, really great energetic tools to be able to work through stuff and to heal. And a lot of, I think people don't realize that they exist on a spiritual level, that you can do all this healing work and then they feel stuck for so long. And I've had people where they've been stuck for 10, 20 years and we do one session. And it's not that they're healed after one session, it's that they have the realization that they can, and that's a big breakthrough. Like, I don't have to be this way. Oh my God. You know, this is a shit. That in and of itself can be a huge healing.
Yeah. Yeah,
Uh,
I can't tell you how many times someone has been trying to heal something and maybe doing some form of therapy, but they come in to get a reading and they that hello that speaks beyond their pictures and really says hello to them as a spirit, really connects to the soul and validates it. They'll come out of that reading and say, I came like had more insight and shifted more in that reading than in, 10 years of therapy. And I just have heard that so many times over the years. And I think it has to do with speaking past the pictures and really saying hello to the spirit, to the true self, and validating that part of a person.
and some of what we were working on the other day in our seeing energy class was validating that being that was around before they were born, and that being that will be around after they leave that body. And mostly we just
Yes.
get validated for this thing in between those two bookmarks of birth and death. And to be validated to, in that bigger way is actually, I think some of the spiritual pain that people have that they don't realize is because that's not being validated by anyone, and they're losing touch with that really deep sense of who they are. And so life itself starts to become so painful because it's so short, it's physical, it's painful, and there's nothing more. And if you look back at almost every single culture in the entire history of humanity before modern Western civilization, they all had this spiritual awareness in some way, shape, or form. In Hawaii, they would touch noses and breathe in each other's prana or mana as they would call it, life force, spirit. In China, chi. In Japan, in Africa, in South America, everywhere across the world for almost all of human history, there was this acknowledgement of the spirit, and now the God has become the material. And you can even see that, like, who we hold up in society as the most important people, the most successful ones, are the ones who have the most material. Like, all right, if I got the
True.
most things, I'm the most successful. Whereas in the past, it would be maybe the person that had the, for example, if you go to Asia, India, the most revered person in all of Asia, in all throughout all of human history, is the Buddha, right? Billions of people there. You go in India, for example, in Thailand, all of these places. Obviously, there's other religions there too, but even in the other religions, it's someone who had found some enlightenment for themselves. It's not the great conqueror, it's the great awakener. And
Yeah.
that is a huge difference than the way we're experiencing it now.
Yeah, it's interesting. I mean, we definitely saw that in India in so many forms, but the most simple one was everywhere you went, it was the picture of the Dalai Lama. Like that was the thing to aspire to, not the picture of some billionaire. That would be the thing to aspire to.
I'm taking this private jet with me to the next life.
Yeah.
Yeah, and
But I
those,
think that
yeah,
you're right. There's such a deep pain in that disconnect and from our true nature, from spirit, from that sense of um, eternity, if you will, that when we talked last or in our class on Tuesday was about past lives, but more from the perspective of really adding that awareness to who you are, that you have lived before and you'll live again. It's not just this singular thing that we're living where we can, we have to get it all right and resolve everything by the end. There's this much bigger journey and arc of growth that we're on. And when we can be connected to that, that's very healing just in and of itself. That awareness, that awakening is very
yeah.
healing.
Maybe we can one day do a meditation, Cody, on just healing all the pain around materialism, all the pain
Yeah.
around our stuff, our money, the things we don't have. You could do a whole meditation on just releasing pain out of your Amazon cart if you're in America during the holidays. Yeah, it's
Uh, it is, that's an interesting thought, how much really pain and distress materialism creates in any of us.
and
Yeah.
invalidates the spirit. Yeah.
Yeah.
So just kind of finishing this arc of healing before, and then Cody's going to take us into a meditation in a moment. Uh, so we perhaps we recognize the energy. Go, all right. It might be external. It might be internal. I could start to work with it. I could start to let it melt off, release it. Perhaps there's some mental images that pop out of the unconscious. There's all of these ways we start to release energy as we sit still and see with our mind's eye and start to have some understanding. And then we might begin to have a shift where there's enough space to see the bigger arc of growth. So, in any healing journey, even if it's in one meditation, it's part of some bigger arc of healing. And so, what is that? Even right now, as I ask the question, you might get a sense what is that bigger arc of healing for you that can validate where you are instead of invalidate where you are? Because when we're in pain, we often feel invalidated. Like I should be through this already. I'm stuck. It's unfair. I don't feel good. It's very even when you're physically not well, right? In bed, you like everything kind of sucks. And so instead, what is that bigger arc of the healing journey and can you validate that? So is there something you're learning about relationships? Is there something you're learning about holding space for other people? Is there something you're learning about childhood trauma? What is that bigger arc of that healing journey that you're on? And even right now, as I say that, can you validate that and not invalidate and judge yourself so much and realize, okay, maybe you've been working on this thing for lifetimes. This could be one part of a very big puzzle for you, one piece of a very big puzzle. And when you validate that, it kind of loosens up some pressure on how you've been treating yourself. Because a lot of people who are having a hard time heal, they just really beat themselves up for where they are and why they're not moving faster. Why isn't this healing going faster, Cody? Can you turn up the speed, please?
Yeah. Yeah, I that pressure that we can get into where we kind of use some of these spiritual concepts against ourselves. So we turn an awareness of maybe an idea of neutrality or non-judgment or an awareness of, certain aspects of compassion or whatever. And we turn that into a should. And so then when we have life happen and we don't feel neutral or we don't feel forgiving towards something, I often hear spiritual people say, "Well, I know I should feel this way, but here's how I actually feel," and suddenly we're locked into a form of self-resistance and judgment instead of acceptance and compassion with ourselves, and then we're stuck with what to do with that just true part of the human condition and human nature where we might feel competitive or resentful or angry about something, and but in our head we have this I shouldn't feel that way. And so healing isn't a journey of perfection. It's really a journey of awareness and realignment and integration.
And when
Yeah.
we read energy, we have no beliefs. So a real energy reading, even reading yourself, there's no preconceived notions whatsoever. And a lot of times people will like pull out their Rolodex of spiritual concepts like you should always forgive, always be in non-judgment, never take things personally. And those things are not useful to me as an
Mm.
energy reader. In fact, they cover up the energy in the moment. Well, who's to say that? Maybe you need to be really effing angry for 5 minutes and just rage and hate everyone, and then the energy starts to shift, and so it puts on one of these kind of like you should be pictures. Filters, and then you can't read energy anymore. So whenever someone starts to get intellectual, conceptual, even if it's packaged in very spiritual information and knowledge, it's just not useful. It's more, imagine more if you're like a 5 year old and you're looking at colors. It's like, I see purple, and over there's green, and that's yellow jelly. And then you poke it. You're like, what is that yellow jelly? And you just stare at it without any preconceived notions. And then you go, oh, that's some old regret. I could see it. And then maybe that's all you get. So we don't even have to close the loop or finish, we don't have to figure everything out. We just see what we see and we work with the energy that we see. And the more you work the energy, the more you're going to see. So never jump ahead to some kind of conclusion. People do that all the time when they read. It's like, I see red, it means pain. Like, no, 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 back up. What does that red mean to you? What is that glob of energy that you see? What is your experience? Nothing beyond that. What drives me crazy in spirituality is when someone gives all these definitions of everything looks like this and what it should be and how you spin your chakra this way and then and then there's no actual experience. It's all just preconceived spiritual concepts. So if you were just looking at it like a 5 year old, just there's a color, I'm gonna poke it. What do you notice? All right. Oh, that's heavy.
Yeah. And that's just seeing it in the reality of it. All those conceptions become filters or rules that may or may not be true at all to what you're looking at. So we just have to kind of come at it like that child is just of discovery and exploration. It's funny. I teach a series of lectures to the my transmedium group that I call Beyond Belief, and it speaks to this. Just how do you get out of all of those preconceived notions and that really the place of intuitive awareness is a place beyond belief, and it is a place of direct experience.
I'll
Yeah.
share one story and then it's time for meditation. Uh, and for those just listening to the podcast, you can get the meditation for free on our website. So I was doing a session. This was like 15 years ago. I was a beginner relatively, and I'll never forget. I was sitting with this woman, and just she asked me to read something, but I would always just say what I saw. I didn't let people lead me on because people will say, "Look at this" and validate this, and you can't. If you're a real reader, you can't do that. You see what you see, and so I was like, "This is weird." I was like, "I hate to ask you this question, but." Is your partner cheating on you? And she was like, yes. And I said, huh, are you cheating on your partner? On your partner? And she said, well, yes. Like very begrudgingly. I was like, oh, okay. Do you notice that part of your what the role you're playing here? And she did not want that addressed or said hello to or brought up. And there was so much pain behind it. And there was such a narrative of that person is doing it. And me being a total schmuck, just having no clue, didn't know what I was doing yet, just saying what I saw, just saying it out, said it out loud. And you could just hit that pain of like, but then also facing it a bit like, okay, yeah, I am playing a role here as well. And I'll just never forget that moment. I was like, oh, you're telling me to look at that pain, but I also see this pain. And it looks like you're never going to move until you face this part of your pain as well. And that's all the communication was about. It wasn't about judging her or telling her she's doing something right or wrong. It was like, you came here because you want to move forward through some pain. And I'm just saying hello to the pain that you can't say hello to, that you've been avoiding or trying to get around or justifying. And that was a good moment to just recognize that for her opportunity to shift. She never came back or spoke to me again, but it was an opportunity. It was an opportunity.
Yeah. Yeah.
I don't
And
know. I don't
sometimes,
know what else.
I mean, that is the thing that can keep us from moving forward. So you have
Yeah.
to address it. Yeah.
Yeah.
Great. Well,
S-
we should meditate a little bit here.
All right. I will hand you
Okay.
the reins.
All right. Hello,
Oh,
everybody.
before
Let's.
you go into it, let me
What?
end
What?
the podcast episode
Oh, yes.
because we only release the talk as a podcast. And also, just one quick announcement, which is me and Cody, after a whole number of years, we're going to do intuitive training, our year long. Finally, it's been like 4 years or something. At March 31st, 2026, we've decided. So, yay.
Coming up.
Okay, that was it. All right, there you go. All right, and thank you all for listening to the podcast. If you're just listening to that, we'll see you next time.